gravy. What a horrible day.
So, do you want to talk about it live?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Only that. It looks like we were able to fit barely into the window to actually stream on Facebook. Lucky for me, I preset the thing to be 20 minutes late, thinking, we'll have plenty of time. And I was 25 minutes late getting here.
That's because you pre-programmed 20 minutes.
Oh, my goodness.
If you'd have put in 25 minutes, you'd have been 30.
Something. It's that kind of a day. Good Wednesday, gentlemen.
Hello.
Goes it?
It's a Wednesday.
Yeah, it is indeed a Wednesday.
It's hump day. Oh, he's gone.
And he's...
I'm back.
Hump day.
Hey.
So about this rough day.
Oh, it was stupid. It's not interesting. It was just the last. I had training all day. The closest to interesting was I had a training today, and so I got to sit around and listen to like stuff I already knew. So yeah, you might notice that the panel, and I didn't do the intro proper. We did a countdown after we were already live.
I know that. I noticed that part. That was really. I was just like, "What the heck?"
Well, and I've been trying to run it because, like, you can't Would you give it like 2 minutes on the countdown? It's 30 seconds is all it has, which is the best.
Only the best countdowns.
Always the best for your 25 a month or whatever.
You can make your own countdowns and upload them.
Yeah, probably. You could do that. You could do your own videos and all kinds of stuff. But I'm not prepared for all of that. Heck, to be completely honest, like I didn't even make this. Go ahead and see if I can find this.
Don't you have like a 3-second intro thing that?
Oh,
like,
I do, but I didn't make that. I didn't make that either.
Yeah, but that's like it's supposed to be your intro.
It's something. It's right. I think it's right here. I didn't even. That was.
We're gonna intro the show 10 minutes into the show. Yay! Woo!
Look at that.
See, look at that.
It's a great opening. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not even like that wasn't even my idea. Like Rico got on Fiverr and said, "Hey, I just got on Fiverr and commissioned this guy to do a thing. What do you think?" And I said, "It's cool." He said, "Yeah, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, that's cool." I never would have thought of that.
That's where we got our bat signal video, as well as the jingle that's sung over top of it. So,
yeah,
a lot of good stuff on Fiverr.
Yeah, absolutely. How do I get this thing to leave my screen? Everything's just a little laggy. I need to close some windows or something. So, yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, the panel is not quite as advertised. We had a last-minute entry from the depths of Kansas.
Yes.
Am I allowed to say that? I didn't even stop to think about that.
Oh, it's all right.
Okay, good.
There's no place like home.
Yeah, for sure.
You've doxed him to somewhere in the middle of the country.
Yeah. There is a lot of Kansas. For those of you guys in the East Coast, like us Western states, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of area here. So you couldn't throw a rock and hit anyone in most of.
Oh, you can watch your dog run away from home for 3 days.
That's true. Hey,
so Superman.
It looks like we're making somebody's day. Taylor says just getting in time to put away groceries, turn on the Mattriarchy, and plop on the couch with some dinner. Wow, we're part of somebody's Wednesday routine. That's something. Anyway, yeah, speaking of Kansas, we're here to talk about Superman and my favorite Superman story. Now, the way we've done this, the way we pitched this show to everybody except Captain Cummings.
I have one picked out, but
yeah. Was to say, hey, pitch us your favorite Superman story, and we'll read them, and then we'll talk about why my pick is the best.
Yeah, we'll talk about why everyone else is wrong. Okay.
Exactly.
Actually,
In the spirit of-
most of these all of these books are really good.
yeah. I was impressed with the ones that there was one I have not read yet. Well, sort of. There were actually kind of two, because the one I wanted to pick, RJ called first. So I'm actually talking about my more or less runner up. So, but since I've put so much into it, RJ, what was your favorite the Superman story?
My favorite Superman story is probably the first dark Superman story, which has become such the trend of things to do now. And that would be the 2-part Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Alan Moore was still the hot and happening thing at the time. And he took every important Silver Age element that ever existed and brought it all into one story. The goofy Superman villains, the goofy heroes that Lana Lang and Jimmy Olsen could sometimes become if they ever chose to, but not on a permanent basis, kind of a thing. The ultimate end to the Luthor Brainiac team up, the Legion of Superheroes, all of that stuff, all brought into one cohesive, sad story.
Well, before we dive into it, I just do want to highlight a couple of chats because we already have a happening chat.
We
do it for you guys.
Entertaining themselves before I got here.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Appreciate that, guy.
Tony Sizzle says, I'm going to get some hate for my 2 favorite Soups picks. Visually, the Alex Ross Kingdom Come version and fave series was All-Star Superman.
Oh, I can't stand All-Star Superman.
But Tony, I kind of see what you're dropping down. I kind of I may not like all of All-Star Superman, but I do like the mythical approach that Grant Morrison takes as a unique, separate take. As long as I treat it like a separate take. Yeah.
If Morrison understood the actual mythology of comics, it could have been a really interesting project. But since he only understands his own imagining of the world as a god, then sorry.
Yeah, he went with the whole sun god thing. He's definitely a sun god deal, which is, it's a take. It's not the take I would do, but it's certainly a take you can. Well,
and I would say that the one thing about All-Star Superman, totally off topic, one thing about it in its favor is Lois Lane is charming as hell in it. Right?
She is.
She's he. If there's one thing Grant Morrison did well, and I would say maybe only one thing, is he really got Lois, especially like Silver Age, Bronze Age Lois.
I agree. She was actually Lois can be irritating sometimes, but in All-Star Superman, I really liked her. That's a good point.
I would have dated her.
Yeah, made her really pretty too. Sometimes some of her earlier incarnations were a little frumpy. Dave says, "How about the one with the giant ape that shoots kryptonite beams out of its eyes?" And I definitely think that's a top 10. Yeah.
Titano.
Yeah. Tony says, I love the Fleischer cartoons, American animation for the win. I mean, you can look those up online. I'm pretty sure they're all public domain at this point.
Yes,
so you can just watch that for free. Yeah. Then Dave says he said he likes the crazy, cheesy Silver Age stuff to the more grounded Bronze Age. I listened to the John Williams music today to set the mood. Oh, cool. That's great that you're setting the mood there. And Fiona Wolf says, nice job on helping Exilium deliver physicals, stateside Critical Blast. Now all I'm waiting for is Volume 1 hardback. That's on cargo ship at the moment. And that she loves the campy, goofy side of Superman's history, like all the super pets.
When it comes to favorite Superman stories, I have to say that the Magnetic Telescope episode of the Fleischer cartoons may be an ideal Superman story. That's the one where they pull down a comet to look at it closely and then push it back into orbit, but then the guy loses control of the thing, and it actually, I think it crashes into the moon. I mean, there's still a moon for some reason in the Fleischer cartoons, but this thing collides with the moon and there's rocks falling down and Superman's fighting him, and then he's got the electricity going through his arms, and it's everything about that is a great Superman story.
You're right. That's a good one. Yeah. I always get that one. I always get that one confused with the one with the the Mad Scientist episode, which I think is the first one, where he's like Superman punches a laser beam, which is just still the funniest image in my head. So,
Yeah.
oh gosh, and wins. He punches the laser and wins.
Well, yeah, it's because he's got he's empowered by all the goodness of America.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
Truth and justice and all that stuff.
Hey, how about the one where they fought the KKK in Africa?
Okay, I gotta go find that one.
Yeah, that's jungle drums.
Okay, yeah. You bring up the KKK, and I just heard people talking about Superman versus the Klan today, and saying I think it was based on a radio program. Superman actually fought the real life KKK through that radio program, because what it was is one of the writers was an inside man, and he knew the code words that the KKK would be using for things that they planned to do, and he wrote those code words into the Superman scripts to pass them along to people and let them know, hey, you're being watched, and people were like constantly listening and changing.
Some of that's a little mythologized, but there was definitely the spirit of it was definitely.
Well, and one thing to remember too, like by the 40s, like Woodrow Wilson's KKK was they had lost most of their big money people. So by the 40s and 50s.
Well, let's get sorry, I didn't mean to divert things too much, but not to get too political about it. But Woodrow Wilson wrote the recruiting film. Okay, moving on. Back to whatever happens in The Man of Tomorrow, and I love the way you've got this spread out, RJ. Very, very well done.
Somebody else did this. I found an image that just showed them both.
Why did you just take credit for that?
Because you can Google it and find the image.
Okay.
Well, honesty's nice too. I have the trade edition.
It's
but this
a
is
beautiful story.
Oh, it's a great story. It's a great story.
And it has the most classic ending scene and ending line, where you realize that you're looking at Superman again, but you didn't realize you were looking at Superman until he does that Clark Kent wink at the audience, and the baby has squeezed a lump of coal from the fireplace into a diamond, and and Alan Moore says this has been an imaginary story. And then there's a beat, and he says, "Aren't they all?" Which was like, "Oh, wow, that was just kind of a poignant moment." I thought about being really, really cantankerous when Matt asked me to pick my favorite Superman story. I was going to say, "Oh, yeah, that's Supreme number 1."
Lol. I've mixed. I'm going to push back a little bit. I have mixed feelings about this one. Because when we were talking about what's our favorite Superman story, one way that I approached it, and maybe we should go down the panel and actually do this, but actually talk about our approach to selecting the comic that we chose. Because to me, when I think about my favorite Superman story, one thing I wanted to portray is not just a good story, which this definitely is, but something that's really embodies the heart of Superman, which I think this story does to a degree. But in other ways, this story was written as many Alan Moore stories, I think, like to be. Alan Moore likes to be the guy who gets the last word. And he likes to be the person, I'm going to write the last story about X, And
to be fair, did you know this was supposed to be, this was Julius Schwartz's last editing job with Superman. And so he wanted this to be the last story.
Oh, this is Swan's last. I believe isn't this Swan's one of Swan? This is Swan's last.
I think so.
This is his last. Yeah, this is his last artistic. That cover where he's mournfully looking at there's this whole cathartic moment where Kurt Swan is basically saying goodbye to comics on that cover as well.
Yeah, I went and read the Wikipedia background story on this before.
No, I mean, as you should. But I just what I think is interesting, and this is why I have the conflicting feelings, is that to me. I agree with the great Umberto Eco, right? Which is the the idea that Superman's not supposed to die, because he is kind of this myth. And so Alan Moore trying to tell the last Superman story, it gives me mixed feelings. Because like I said, it is a good story in a lot of ways, but I'm also I part of me just resists the idea of telling the final Superman story, which is kind of funny because like right after this one, they just kind of relaunched Superman.
This was the end of the Crisis era.
I kind of get what Twitless is going for, because it's an interesting last story, but at the same time, it's not a good ending for Crypto, Jimmy Olsen, Lana Lang.
It's a bloodbath.
What's that?
It's a bloodbath.
It is a bloodbath, and Bizarro killing everybody on his planet, and then killing a whole bunch of humans, and yeah, it's very much a bloodbath, and not really how you want to see everything ending. And it's an interesting story, but it's like you're glad it's an imaginary story, unlike all the others.
Yeah, right.
Took the characters and kept them all with that Silver Age innocence to them, and just put them through look at the boxes on the books here. You see what was happening at the time that these were being printed. How will the Dark Knight end? Who watches the Watchmen? We had this deconstructive, gritty, gory process going on with our superheroes, and Alan Moore took what we loved as the characters we've been reading for a couple of decades at this level, and put them into that kind of a situation, and kept them the same in their reactions to it.
Well, except for, I don't know, like I feel like the line was definitely crossed when Lana Lang gets killed, because like you get to see her burned, like charred remains, and it's weird because it's in a Silver Age register, like it's Silver Age comics, but it's like Bronze Age and post modern age like moment. It's a dissociative moment, because you're
it's that dichotomy of the art and the story.
Well, and I think that's even reflected in the Big Bad, right? The guy who's actually pulling the strings behind all of them.
Yeah.
Right? Where you find out it's like, I don't want to spoil this too much, because it really is worth going back and reading. I mean, I know it's a 40-year-old comic, but bear with me. I'm going to
talk. Is it how old? How old is it?
35 years old.
RJ, do you mind actually giving a brief synopsis of this for our audience who may not be familiar with it?
The brief synopsis is, well, put it in perspective. Crisis had happened. We knew that the Superman line was going to come to an end, and they were going to relaunch with Man of Steel, #1, kind of depower Superman, because he was a planet pusher at this level, who was smart enough to know everything. So in this story, it's I think the first thing that happens is Toyman attacks the Daily Planet with these toy Supermans, which was one of his tropes. He always had these little toy dolls that would invade a place and then they'd attack. Well, they all converged on Clark while everyone's getting behind their desk. And they're like, oh my God, Clark's dead. And, clouds clear. And of course, Clark's not dead. He's just been revealed to everybody in the Daily Planet in front of all of his friends because his suit's been burned away. Because back in the day, you always wore your superhero suit under your clothes. I can tell you that gets hot. I've tried it.
But Superman doesn't get hot.
Different story. So now he's and this is still the love triangles going on here. Not the Clark Superman Lois love triangle, though it was, but the writers were playing a lot at the time with the Lana Lang having returned to the Superman mythos. So now Superman's attentions were being divided between Lois and Lana, and they would be rivals with each other for his affections. And that actually gets touched on very strongly in this story. When Lana has the realization of who really loves, who Superman really loves the most, and then goes out to prove that, he'll know that I loved him the most in her, kamikaze attack on the big bad here.
Well, if I could flesh this out just a little bit again, just for the people who have no context. So this is written kind of like as a final Superman story. All of Superman's kind of villains, for some mysterious reason, team up to take down Superman, and not just Superman, but Superman's loved ones, everything that he kind of loves, including Metropolis, the Daily Planet, and so on. So Superman finds himself kind of in the fight for his life and for the life of his loved ones, and this is a fight.
They're more vicious.
Yeah, the stakes are as high as they could be, like life and death stakes here. So that's the main setup for this kind of swan song. Kurt Swan, get it?
Yes.
Okay, so the swan song for Superman.
I get it, but I'm embarrassed.
Okay. Taylor would have loved that.
Yeah, and I think one of the creepiest aspects of it, second to the revelation of the big bad and why the big bad was operating differently, was the whole. They had recently just changed Brainiac. Brainiac had this new metallic-looking body. He was no longer the green Kaluan that we're used to. I keep thinking that's a coffee drink when I say it, but I know better.
And some people actually used to him being the robot. So sometimes it bears reminding that he used to be an alien, then he was a robot, then he was an alien again. I don't know where he is now.
Yeah, even when he was the green-skinned thing, he was still a robot, but he looked human.
Yeah.
He looked like Brainiac 5. And I always wondered, how did he have kids for Brainiac 5? But that's a different story altogether.
Because the robot thing was a retcon. Like, he was originally just an alien.
But he teams up with Luthor here, and Luthor's got like basically his head, and it's just a little head crawling on tentacles. And Brainiac kills Luthor, and then sits on top of his head like some kind of a helmet and animates his body and makes it march through the North Pole towards the Fortress of Solitude on this death march to kill Superman. It was just very, very creepy.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Superman has now, taken all of his friends and loved ones and put them in the fortress for protection. Of course, everyone now knows who he is. There's all kinds of discussions. Krypto, is prepared to sacrifice himself. Jimmy and Lana prepared to sacrifice themselves. They all are prepared to sacrifice themselves for Superman, who's kept the secret from them all these years. Whereas, Superman would be the one definitely sacrificing himself for them, but he's been kept busy with these other fights. So they're trying to save his life as much as he's trying to save them. And Lana and Jimmy, of course, have the ability to do so because guess what? Stored in the fortress, because Superman keeps every dangerous little souvenir he's ever had, is the alien ring that I think it was stored in the fortress. I don't think Lana had it on her. It's been a while. I have to look at it again. Lana was given a ring when she was a teenager that turned her into Insect Queen. She could become part insect, part girl, sort of like Ben 10. And she became the Insect Queen again to join this fight. Jimmy Olsen had the formula there that turned him into Turtle Boy. Was he Turtle Boy or Elastic Lad? I think it was
Elastic Lad.
Yeah, thank you. Jimmy Olsen had a lot of identities. It was hard to keep them straight. So yeah, both of them, by the way, I think were Legion of Superhero substitute members at one point or another in their career as Elastic Lad and as Insect Queen. They don't make it. They're not Superman. They're just stretchy and buzzy, and very, very killy. It was just sad. The Legion shows up and they can't tell him anything about his future, but he can tell by the way that they're all somber, like, oh, this is the last time I'm going to see you guys, isn't it? And they are there to deliver plot point. They present him with this trophy, which is Superman standing there in memoriam, and he's holding something in his hands, facing outward. And when Superman realizes what it is he's holding later on, he's like, oh, they left me a hint on how to deal with the big bad. Let me go get this thing and take care of it.
And he gets to see his cousin who just died in the crisis.
Yeah, I never quite figured out how that worked, but actually,
because this is her in the past.
Yeah, she came back with the Legion, didn't she?
Right.
So she doesn't know that she's going to die in the crisis, all that stuff.
Well, technically,
Superman,
the crisis isn't canon to this story, right?
It was actually because he knew that Supergirl was dead.
Yeah,
and that was how she died.
That doesn't make any sense.
Can I just explain?
This story's imaginary. Remember, it's okay. It's fine. It didn't happen.
If I can interrupt for just a second to explain for everybody who doesn't understand, the crisis ended at the end of 1985, but Superman didn't reboot until the summer of '86, and so there's about a dozen issues of Superman and a dozen issues of action that take place in this post-crisis but pre what would you call him? Pre-John
Reboot.
Byrne Superman.
Reboot.
Yeah, pre-Moss era.
Yeah, pre-reboot, I would call it.
Right.
All right.
Pre-boot.
So one thing, pre-boot. Yeah, one thing that I hold against this comic, and I'm pretty sure we'd all be on the same page here, is that you don't want to see the dog die. This is the story that kills Crypto.
Yeah, but if you want somebody to be sad,
Are you saying you don't like Old Yeller?
Who? Okay, are you saying you do?
it's a classic for a reason.
Okay.
Remember that funny movie where the dog died?
They tell actors, if you really want to come across sad while you're delivering your lines, think of a basket full of dead puppies.
So maybe this is a reflection on whatever the hell's wrong with me, but when I was in 6th grade and we had a movie day at school and they were showing us Old Yeller, and I couldn't stop being amused at how obviously it was tugging at heartstrings. And I'm like, come on, guys, you're not falling for this, right? I mean, one, it's not a surprise that the dog's going to die. And two, you're being played for saps. It's not even real drama here.
Man, you're a jaded kid.
I'm the one who wanted.
I was asked to sit in the hall for the duration of the film.
He probably giggled all the way through the ending of Where the Red Fern Grows.
I'll have to tell you.
That movie bored me so much I couldn't make it to the end, and I was like,
No,
I guess the dog probably dies. I don't care.
I'll have to tell you one day my reaction to watching Charlotte's Web too many times. But needless to say, I was calling for the pig to be made bacon. But putting aside all our how horrible we were as children, I will say at the very least that Crypto does go out swinging, and he's killing the Kryptonite Man here, and it's
that's how you do. That's how you do.
It's a sacrificial move. It's still awful, but he takes
that
out.
Scene we see right there with him howling, his death howl. That's just that was chilling.
Yeah.
But he also ripped out somebody's throat, which is kind of brutal for Crypto.
Exactly. Yeah, that green puddle of blood, that's Kryptonite Man's blood right there. That's not spinach.
That's how the dog do, though. Mess with the dog.
I will save you, Master, because Crypto could think in perfect English.
Good point. Fiona Wolf says, yeah, glad my first impression of Alan Moore was Watchmen, so I never read any of his other comics because of it.
I will tell you this. I love Alan Moore's early stuff retroactively. There is somewhere in an issue of Swamp Thing a letter that they published of mine shortly after Alan Moore began writing it, where I was very, very vehemently against this new change of direction and art. And I look at that, I'm like, you're an idiot.
Like, your letter was published, putting Alan Moore on blast. Please show me that. I have got to.
I feel the need to read this as well. Not now.
I need to put it on screen. We're gonna.
I don't think they've published all the Swamp Thing letter pages, but it's within the first 6 issues after the anatomy lesson. So. Because
we can dig that. We could dig that up. We're gonna dig that up.
I don't know that I signed my real name to it, but I will say that it will be one of those things that says it ended with "Give me Swamp Thing" or "Give me Spider-Man."
I have to find this now. I have to find this.
I was 16.
That's fine. I'm actually I.
You say that like that makes it bad.
No, I was going to say, I appreciate people putting Alan Moore on blast. I think he gets a bit overrated. He needs people taking him down a peg. So I'm actually jealous that you it's enshrined somewhere. Someone was taking Alan Moore down a peg. Great.
I wanted them to go back to the Marty Pasco protect the female teenage Antichrist story, I guess.
Gosh, that's okay.
You were just distraught that they could never go back to him being a human. The holding out that hope that he will find the chemical that turns him back into a human sometime.
Yeah, because they could never scrape that stuff off of him. He'd never come back.
All right. So
anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, back to the story. Sorry.
Back to the story. Yeah. So
not a whole lot more to it. I mean, Superman beats the bad guy and then decides that all the bad guys are gone. There's no reason for me to continue being Superman, and walks into a chamber of gold kryptonite.
He actually does it because he's taken a life.
Yeah. Which, he would do again 6 months later.
Whoops.
2
Different
years and
Superman.
6 months.
Which he would do
Yeah.
in the critically acclaimed Man of Steel by Zack Snyder.
Yeah, well, I mean, John Byrne would put him later on in that Pocket Universe and have him kill the Pocket Universe Phantom Zone villains.
That close to being my choice for this story, by the way.
Ooh.
Yeah, the killing of the Phantom Zone villains, I really love that story.
And then the year spent as Gangbuster.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. He develops a second personality, which nobody ever seems to address the fact that he's got psychotic problems.
Yeah, Superman has a split personality. The Hulk has done an entire run on just that factor alone. Superman, yes, it's a side plot.
Right. Yeah, I always, if I may just interrupt just a little bit, just to mention that one, the 3-part story where Superman goes into this pocket universe where the Kryptonians are these level Kryptonians. I can juggle a planet. I can, just accelerate a bit into the sky and go backwards through time through concentric rings that are labeled with the years on them.
Yes.
I mean, this is how powerful the Superman of that time was. And John Byrne's Superman is not up to their level. And these guys, 3 Kryptonians destroy the entire planet, everybody on the planet. And he is the last representative of justice. And there's the possibility they will get their powers back and he will never be able to stop them if they get to his Earth. And he exposes them to kryptonite. And I consider it very well done and a very good example of a no-win situation where he has to do it. And then he goes through like a couple years of suffering of, oh my gosh, I killed someone. And then he decides, I will never kill again. And it's like, no, you were just as committed to never killing before. And you were in that situation. What would you do differently? I like the way John Byrne set that up. I mean, it was a situation where there's nothing else you can do with them except to execute them, to see justice served and to protect your planet. And I love that story. Like I say, this close to being my choice, but I should let you finish the end of this one. I'm sorry.
Let's bounce back to chat for just a second. We got some more people
okay
with us.
For
So
one,
Jim,
female Antichrist, what? We may have an appendix after the stream.
we go.
We'll see what happens when all that shakes out. So
Also, Jim Turner has joined chat. He says, Action Comics 363, 367, Silver Age Superman turns green and dies of a virus. Long, strange story. And also, can Superman be turned into a spaceship piloted by Batman? It worked for Hulk.
what?
They did that, didn't they? With the new Toyman in that Superman Batman comic book, he has a gigantic Superman that he flies into space.
I think that's a robot that's based on composite Superman.
That's right. Yes.
I think so, if I'm not mistaken. But Evie asks Mrs. H, how goes Spider Pickle? And Mrs. H said he has a friend. Wait.
Oh dear.
Oh wow.
We'll have to see how that shakes out later on. Anyway, so the thing I like, one of the things that I loved about this when I first read it, and I like my cousin had a whole mess of comics that he had collected from garage sales, and that his aunt had picked up at garage sales, and they were all reader copies, just beat to hell. And when I go to visit, I would just pour through these stacks of busted floppies. And the thing that, and so I read these out of order. I read the second issue first because I didn't know there was a first issue. And then later on, I found the first issue. So I had originally read these out of order back in like 1994 or something. Right. But I'll tell you right now, the thing that really caught this story to me was the last page, right? Because it's a world without a Superman, but in Alan Moore fashion, he can never leave a good ending done. And I'm gonna enlarge myself on the screen here. You see, and so you've got this thing. Here's the little baby playing in coal, because in the future they still use coal. Pay attention, Department of Energy. Come on. Okay,
This is the future from that story we're living in now, and we still use coal.
this is also true. So you're using coal, and this baby turns a coal into diamond, and then Mr. Lois Lane's husband winks at the audience. Right there, you go. So that's the beauty. So that's a little spoiler to the end of the thing, but it was one of those things that how do you get there is the fun part. Go get it. But
I was gonna say,
Jim says the ending is gross. I'd be interested. The thing I like about it is it promises the future, right? It's not the end of things.
Yeah.
And for a story that is as dark and as grim as this gets, and it does, it shows that like the hardness and the pain that life goes through isn't the end of the story, and that's what I appreciated
Always
about
have
it.
hope.
And because
and yet while being so dark, it is also, I mean, it has Vartox, it has Superwoman, it really draws from all the wonderful things of the Silver and Bronze Ages, and I do have to love it for that. No matter,
Alan Moore did a better job of taking everything in the Silver Age Superman and putting it into 2 issues than Grant Morrison did of taking the entire Silver Age of Batman and putting it into 14 god-awful things.
So Mrs. H delivering amazing art as usual.
This is horrible. I know.
Pickle.
These are so amazing. I love that the pickle looks like he's got an Elvis fro. Yeah, it's just an Elvis hairdo. That's great.
It's a pompadour. It's a super pompadour.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the worms thing was. I don't think. Not this one.
Oh, I think she might be thinking of the plant thing, not the worm thing. A worm was used to control Captain Marvel, which some of you call Shazam. I still call him Captain Marvel
because that's his
in
name.
Kingdom Come. Yes,
not legally. Sorry.
Government name Captain Marvel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That. Superman, I don't want to say too much about it because it's probably somebody else's favorite story on the panel here. So there was a plant involved, and maybe we'll hear about that.
Perhaps. So, Michael, what was your favorite Superman story? Did he freeze?
He's not just looking at the camera. He actually is frozen.
Okay. That's that 1,000-yard stare. Okay. Maybe we should.
So Rasputin has joined the chat and asked, "Is this the beard farm?"
You know, I always think that Alan Moore is like the reincarnation of Rasputin, or just another. Maybe Rasputin really was immortal, and he just survived long enough to start writing comic books, and we'll go somewhere else next.
Who knows?
Every time I see Rasputin in a movie, I'm like, it's Alan Moore.
He was in Kingsman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna have to. I think Mike is having some sort of web connection problem. So rather than wait on him, we're gonna go ahead and move on to Twitless.
You want me next? Okay.
Yeah, you go next, man.
All right. Okay. So I waffled on this. So I'll give a special mention to like the first pick, but I won't talk a lot about it. And then I'll jump into the one I think that I'm actually gonna settle on for today. But just to talk a little bit of background on my approach to this, because I knew I'm on a panel with a bunch of old people, so I knew that some of these old stories were going to come out. So one of the stories I wanted to actually bring up was, I think is it Superman 149, which is a story that's always stuck with me, which is another imaginary story where Lex Luthor reforms and then actually turns the tables and kills Superman, and Supergirl basically takes his place. And that one always just kind of stuck with me. But I was like, is it really emblematic of Superman if he's just dying in the story? So I thought that I wanted to bring a story that really was emblematic of who Superman was and what makes the Superman adventures so appealing to people. So on top of that, I wanted to pick something that was not old. Initially, I was leaning towards Superman Birthright And the reason why I was leaning towards Superman Birthright is it's a much more recent kind of.
It's because he's secretly in love with Mark Waid.
That is, he's not that. But a Superman Birthright was one of the first new Superman, I guess, stories that I discovered when I was picking up comics in the library. And Lionel Yu does a really good job with the art, and it's definitely a Superman story for a younger generation. Like, it's like, this is the Superman origin story for younger generation who are people who are not reading comics from the 70s or 80s because they're old. So and it's good.
Oxygen is old.
I know. I'm just being a jerk. Anyway, so long story short, I Birthright, I think I still like Birthright, although I've got some problems with it. It's also 12 issues, and I think this show was meant to be more about like kind of 1-shot, 2-shot stories. So I ended up kind of rethinking this, and instead of choosing Birthright, I decided to settle on
Earth One.
Yeah. I actually went for something very different, and I think this is something that people in our audience can hopefully relate to a bit. I went with Superman Adventures by Scott McCloud as a writer, not an artist, which is really weird because, Scott McCloud tends to be a writer-artist combo. And so for those of us in the audience who are not old, it's probably the last time I'm going to use that joke. But for those of you who were introduced to Superman, not with the Fleischer cartoons, although actually I think Fleischer was the first time I watched Superman. So I don't know if that makes me old or not. But the animated series of Superman that was in the early 2000s, so on. And so for a lot of people, this show and Justice League was their version of Superman. And I think there's a lot of things that this cartoon and the comic that they ended up kind of basing on it did very, very well. In fact, there are certain things that this comic does that I think are just perfect in terms of just nailing the tone of what Superman is, of who he is, and how he is. Yep, Scott McCloud. I know, kind of shocking. But he wrote.
For the record, this is my favorite Scott McCloud work. I was unaware of that until like yesterday.
Wow. Oh, cool.
I don't hate this. I didn't hate Zot. I just couldn't get into Zot, so I don't really know if I like Zot because it's just like.
All right, so back to Superman Adventures.
It may simply be that I didn't give it a fair shake because I was so irritated with the pedantic nature of understanding comics.
Oh gosh,
we're gonna have to talk about my feelings on understanding comics.
We're gonna have to revisit that at some point. I'm gonna introduce you to some people who make Scott McCloud. Who make Scott McCloud look like a kindergartner in the classroom. Anyway, so it was hard for me to pick, but I think this is a good one. So we'll go with this one. This is Superman Adventures. I think it's number 3. And this is the story that has Brainiac in it. And there's a lot of things to like about it. This is a story where Superman confronts his kind of tragic origin. And also confronts one of his, most, powerful villains. And the way that the conflict, it's got action, it's got even a little bit of suspense when Lois Lane is threatened by Brainiac, in a very kind of personal way. But I really love how this story concludes. So let me pull up kind of the ending here.
And one of the notes to point out quick is that the Brainiac version, the version of Brainiac from the TV show, and I hadn't realized this, it's distinctly different from any other Brainiac in continuity, in any other continuity. In the continuity from the Adventures, I'm assuming it from the TV show as well, Brainiac is the embodiment of Metropolis's, of Krypton's internet.
Yes.
So rather than being it's Krypton's matrix, rather than being an alien like
City
techno sentient whatever, he is specifically a Kryptonian creation,
Yes.
kind of like. Yeah, that's I thought that was really interesting.
And that's something that other stories have actually picked up on and ran with. I think the Krypton show does no, that one goes another direction. But I think some other media has actually, I think, run with that idea of like Brainiac being kind of tied to Krypton. Evie's saying some interesting stuff here. She says, "I'm not old. I was born in the wrong generation." I'll take that. That's a nice thing to say here. And then she asks, "Have you read The Sculptor?" It's the only thing I've read from McCloud. I have read The Sculptor, and The Sculptor is, I think it's Scott McCloud. What he would think of it's almost like a magnum opus for him. It's his philosophy of art in a lot of ways. It's unfortunately very pretentious, and I think he will be far more remembered for understanding comics than The Sculptor.
You okay, Hutch?
I don't want to spit all over the screen. I was taking a drink.
Good Lord.
Sorry, ill-timed joke.
Or perfectly timed joke, depending on your perspective.
Yeah. Well, I don't want Hutch dying on my show. No Cass Elliot moments, please.
But it's okay if he goes, because it's just an imaginary story if he dies on the show. Or it's the Earth 2 version. We can reboot him. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right, back to Adventures of Superman. Can you share my screen again? I've got a few more things to share here. So one of the reasons why I said I love this comic is how it ends. So a lot of Superman fights and actually, I should say.
One second. You're jumping ahead of the thing here for people who might not have read this.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
This orb that Superman is holding here, it's like the collected memory of all of Krypton's recorded history.
Yeah.
See, it's the thing that allows Superman to have any connection. It's the only data saving mechanism of the world of Krypton, right? So that's important.
Oh yeah, so the fight here, it's actually the fight's a little weird because there's like a bunch of robot cats and they combine together to make a mega cat, and Superman kills it.
A mega cat?
Yeah.
The giant cat man. It's amazing.
Let me scroll up a little bit. Yeah, there's a giant cat robot. So
Oh, it's a cat robot.
Yeah, it's a cat robot. Which I that part was weird. I'm like, Scott, what are you on for that? So like that part was odd, but the rest of it's really good.
And to be fair, the only reason the cats are there is there's actually a plot point where everyone notices these cats and, oh my god, it's an unlucky day, and then Brainiac attacks and tries to kill everyone.
Yeah. And so Lois makes a smarmy comment, and Brainiac, because Brainiac's definitely a threat in this series, and he kind of like grabs Lois and he basically says, do what I say or else. And then Superman comes with the orb. This is the orb of information. If Brainiac gets it, he's gonna leave with it and then destroy the planet. Of course, Taylor says, I already disliked it. It's robot cats, Taylor. It's okay. But what I love here is that a lot of Superman and superhero fights in general, they end when the superhero like punches the enemy, and Superman comics were like this, just like a lot of others. What I love here is the fact that Superman confronts Brainiac and basically says, surrender or I will destroy everything that remains of Krypton. And first off, this shows how much he treasures human life, how much he values Lois's life, and it also kind of shows how much that Brainiac values information above human life. So this is a great example of showing like the different, the hero and the villain, what they value, and of course, life is gonna, win out here. But Brainiac
life finds a way.
Finds a way, yeah. So what I love here is the fact that Brainiac actually kind of has this moment where he's like, what would you have me do? And as opposed to the final conflict, which we've had plenty of action at this point, Superman fighting robots and stuff. We hit those notes that we want in a superhero story. But here things get kind of interesting because Brainiac kind of capitulates. And Superman doesn't just say, I'm going to just rub it in your face or whatever. Superman kind of, in a weird way, sort of gives Brainiac kind of what he wants. he takes Brainiac's like master chip, which is like really small, and he unifies it with the thing that he was looking for, which is the Kryptonium orb of information. And in a way, he kind of puts Brainiac in where he sort of wants to be, with pure information. And so Superman here ends up finding a resolution to the story that kind of even does gives not to say a happy ending, but even a peaceful resolution to the villain. And then, of course, afterwards, he blows up the remaining body of Brainiac, as you do. But
This reminds me of the did you guys ever see the movie The Brothers Bloom with Adrian Brody and the guy that played the Hulk?
Eric Bana?
No, the other one, the insufferable one.
Norton?
Bill Bixby?
No.
Edward Norton?
No, not Edward Norton either. He's also insufferable, but not the one I'm thinking of.
Mark Ruffalo.
Okay.
Mark Ruffalo.
Okay.
That's the one. Anyway, there's a line. They play a couple of con men who are out to take everyone's money, and there's a great line in the movie that the perfect con is where everybody gets what they want.
Mm.
Yeah, and that sort of sums
So
up.
it's Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, except it has the charm of being a quirky art house film.
Yeah, so like at the end of this wasn't even just the hero wins and the villain loses. The hero wins and the villain kind of loses, but the villain still ends up kind of getting something that he wants in a peaceful way. And I just love how that ended. And on top of everything else, the way the story ends panel wise is Superman kind of mournfully looking out at the stars and thinking about the memory of his lost people, and Dr. Oh crap, what's his name? Hamilton. Dr. Hamilton from Star Labs says that their memory lives on. Their memory of Krypton lives on in you. And if we could line everything up, or I could just scroll down a little bit further. But I want to show these final couple of panels here.
We'll just flip this orientation this way.
Yeah. And in this, you'll see on the left-hand panel. I'll even zoom in a little bit more so you can get this even better. Perfect. What is this, aspect to aspect transition, as McLeod would say, if I'm getting the transitions right. But you have a moment to moment transition where something very subtle happens. Superman goes from being contemplative to kind of, getting some closure from what Hamilton has just said. And you'll notice that his eyes get this little ring of blue around them in that panel on the right, which also reinforces just the fact that Superman not only has closure, but he is kind of filled with hope in this panel. And in those few panels here, I think there's like 4 of them, you see Superman go through an emotional journey that kind of, involves what he's been going through in this particular story and in the series and in his character arc as a whole. And to me, by the way, moments like this, I'm stealing them for Omega Girl, because this is aspirational comics. This is who Superman is, and I feel like that. And this is why I picked it. I picked this story because this is Superman. This is who he is. This is how powerful he is. He wins the day. He's not, angrily punching the villain's face until he bleeds. He finds a way to kind of, resolve the situation, kind of like a good con where everyone kind of gets what they want. He goes through dark times. He faces the darkness, but then he ends up with a smile on his face and a glint in his eye that kind of acknowledges some of the sadness. He's not like super like whistling here at the end, but he has this kind of hopeful closure. I love this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think it really, one of the things, this whole story and Superman's love for human life, right? And how much they're able to get this in 22 pages.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. They do this super fast. This is one issue.
Pay attention. Listen, 22 pages of super awesome story, but it also reaches down into the pit of the problem that I have with so much Superman writing is they forget that he is Superman, right? It's got to have a really great superhero, and this might be my bias, but I believe a great superhero story has to have the marriage of those two elements in a perfect balance, or you end up with something. That's one of the things I absolutely could not stand about All-Star Superman is that he's
super
not
he's super god. That's that's literally Grant Morrison's book, Super Gods. So you can see which angle he's taken on.
The exception is he has a sense of humor like a person, but that's about it. And his relationship with Lois brings him close to a humanity in that thing, but only when she's on screen. That's it, on panel.
Yeah, he's definitely meant to be like Apollo or whoever.
So, anyhow. Yeah, I loved this story. What do you guys think about it?
No, I liked it.
RJ says it's food to chew on.
I'm putting a chocolate egg in my mouth.
But I did recently read. Did you read the one with? What issue is that? Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Hutch, what do you think? Is Hutch back?
He was.
He was.
I think that's his avatar now.
Yeah, just that frozen image.
Okay,
but no, I like the fact that it was 22 pages. Do you remember when comics used to do that and be meaningful and actually grab the reader by the heart and the throat and drag them along?
Pick up Adventures of Superman. There's a lot of stories like this. Another one I wanted to pick as well is Superman, who has to kind of again, stretches him to his limits. He Metropolis gets destroyed. He has to go back in time and fix it all, and all while getting hit with kryptonite. And again, accomplishes it all in like the 20-something odd pages, and you get the full closure and an emotional journey. It's like
and it's really because Rick Burkett is such a strong penciler, especially storytelling wise. And he did the Batman ones, the Batman Adventure ones. He did the Superman Adventure ones. So like any of those issues are really good. I was looking at I always pick up Lobo issues whenever I see them in the back issue bins. And I recently got the Adventure Superman comics that had Lobo in it. And a lot of the times, they're kind of no story and kind of garbage. But I was pleasantly surprised that it was a lot like this issue where it shows the humanity of Superman and him trying to preserve life. And he essentially had to trick Lobo into doing what he wanted so he could save the day.
Yeah. And so for point of reference, because Lobo isn't the big name that he was, Lobo was designed to be a satire of Superman, right? So he's the last Zarnian, but because he killed all the rest of them. Right? He got sick of his entire race, and he wiped them all out. He's super strong. He has no humanity. He's entirely a hedonist.
He's 90s comics embodied.
Yeah, exactly. And he's a lampoon,
including the motorcycle that he rides.
Oh yeah. So he's lampooning that grim and gritty aspect and as a pastiche of Superman at the same time. Yeah. And so the juxtaposition of these characters is.
He was kind of like Rorschach. You weren't supposed to love the character.
Right.
The only thing I don't like about this story is the ending. And it's not even the ending. It's that it reminds me of a story that I hated so much, where they're staring off at Krypton in the sky. And, I'm like, this is a nice emotional moment. And the science student in me is like, and if he were to use his telescopic vision, he can actually see what was happening on Krypton 200 years ago, because he'll still see life because it's 200 million light years away, or blah, 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 or however far it was. And what that makes me think of is Superman Returns, where Superman left the planet because the telescope showed life on Krypton. I'm like, yeah, but...
Well, and in fairness to the conceit in this story specifically, they mentioned that it's 27 light years from Earth. So it's much closer in this comic than it is in...
It's much closer than Alpha Centauri, then.
Yeah. I don't know how it would have gotten, how Superman got here that fast then, because we're talking to some seriously translight travel at that point.
Well, yeah, I thought he opened a wormhole, but yeah,
who knows? I'm not in charge of that that department. Mike, are you with us?
Nope.
He's got no audio. I
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, hey, there you are.
No?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. I
Did you
actually
forget-
turned
did
on
you-
my work computer. If this does not work, what?
Oh my god.
What? I don't know if anybody's hearing me.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
You
You're
stopped.
killing us, though.
I have such a
Perfect time,
terrible
too.
connection, and the weird thing is that my work computer, sitting 2 feet away, never has a bad connection. So, I'm gonna switch. Somebody else talk.
Okay.
I guess we'll do me then.
All right.
I didn't prepare any slides
I'll
because
pull
I
it
have
up.
the physical copy
I'll pull it up.
right here, buddy.
There it is.
So this I gotta tell you what, this right here is this used to be my brother's comic. He decided he didn't want it anymore, so I just took his comics when I moved out because he was like, I don't want these anymore. Okay. But so I was not a Superman fan when I was first getting into comics. I was Batman, I was Robin, I was the Green Hornet. Superman, I just couldn't dig into it. And then they died. And I was like, well, that's something. and I kind of followed up a little bit because he was dead, but I didn't, and leading into all of that, and so I kind of kept up on it, but it wasn't really my thing until this comic. Right? This is Adventures of Superman 500, and the thing about this comic that hit me so much is that Superman is basically a supporting character in it, but it's about Pa Kent had a heart attack, and Pa Kent is having a vision as he's fighting for his life, and his vision traces him through the afterlife to try to rescue his son from these demons that are trying to drag him to hell.
Yep.
Meanwhile, on Earth, people are dealing with what it means that Superman's gone. Lois, who had just recently been engaged to Superman, is hanging out with his mom, and they're trying to talk about, I know Clark just died and John's about to die, and what does this mean for our life? Back at the Daily Planet, things are going crazy with the stuff there. Jimmy is reneging on his contractual obligations to play Turtle Boy on TV. The prankster is killing people in his cell. The crime buster's running from the cops. And I'm telling you, man, gangbuster, I'm telling you, I was just like, suddenly I cared about Metropolis. Like you couldn't have paid me to care about Metropolis before I read this comic. But with the weight of everything going on and how it showed people living their lives and how like the nobility of Superman was tied to his parents and his upbringing and what that meant, right? And that pull and that push, that's what hooked me, right? Was that sense of family, that sense of down home. And here, this is on this particular scene, right? Nope, this way. This particular scene here, Pa is hallucinating, coming back from Korea, and but it's Korea, but it's Kansas because it's a death vision.
Was it Korea?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was all right.
Yeah,
For some reason I thought it was Nam.
No, he's not. He's too old to have been in Nam. Come on, this is 1995, 93. I mean 93.
I dare you to troll Twitter by saying that your favorite Superman comic is the one starring Jonathan Kent.
Oh gosh. We have an excellent chat I want to highlight here. Rara Rasputin says, I've not read much of Superman, but this matches the ideals I want to see in the world. Might have to dig into the classic material. That's why we do this show. It's exactly why. Mission accomplished. We could end it here.
Dig through
This is
those long
also
boxes.
Steele's first appearance, and they made a movie shortly after that starring Shaquille O'Neal.
That's true. That's true.
Steel, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's cooler in the comic.
And that's
He's cooler than Superman.
I would agree. So it's close. It's close.
I'm just
because,
trolling right now, but
yeah, no.
He's Iron Man.
But I mean, there's something to that because like Superman, like there's different kinds of stories because the story of Steel in the comics is a redemption story, and I love redemption stories.
yeah.
And it's got real stakes. And when they wrote that, they wrote it with some real stakes in Steel stuff. And Superman isn't a redemption story, right? It's a different type of aspiration. And so that's it. But yeah, so this one gets it because of the family love, because of the impact of Superman, because of all that stuff that made me care about what was going on in Metropolis. And so then at the end of the book, they introduced the 4 Supermen. It's excerpts of their first appearances. I think there actually were reprint. I think they ended up getting reprinted like the next week in the different titles or the next 4 weeks. But it was it made me really like that. The reign of the Supermen was like, I'm madly curious about what happens with these guys.
Fiona Wolf says that, yeah, the Death and Return of Superman volumes really showcase what he represents through his supporting cast and friends. I'd also recommend the John Byrne run, the 80s reboot. And then Evie says, please list the Superman comics mentioned in the description and or the comments. Good idea. We'll have to do that.
Will do. They'll be in the description.
You don't like the super mullet?
I'm not a big fan of the super mullet, sorry.
Okay, so here's the funniest thing about the super mullet, because I have to go. It post-dates this. So I got keyed in to a little more of my story, since I think it's super fascinating. I got keyed into Superman, and so I started reading these. And my brother, he likes Superman, so like I was reading his books as he was getting them. Then when they had their return, right? And he comes back after the destruction of Coast City, and he comes back with, it wasn't supposed to be a super mullet. What happened is they're like, okay, so he's been growing in this pod. We're going to bring him back, and he's going to have long hair because he's never had a haircut. He's had accelerated growth for 27 years of accelerated growth. So he needs to have hair. And DC marketing is like, that's cool, but it's got to have the spit curl. It's not Superman if there's no spit curl. They're like, it can't be a spit curl because it's keep spit curl or nothing. That's it. It's Superman. It's got to have the spit curl. It's got to look like an S right on his forehead. No, if otherwise he's going to look like Captain Marvel, and we can't have that, for crying out loud.
He could have just had it in a man bun and then had the curl.
Oh my gosh, no! Actually, the man bun happens. Doesn't the man bun happen in Kingdom Come at some point?
I can't remember, but
okay.
One of the things is like, this is, so that's part of the situation, is it wasn't supposed to be a mullet. It's just that when you take all of that party and you just put it in the back so you can have your less curl, it just is a mullet, whether you want it to be or not.
It also served to highlight just how, first of all, just how lax the Daily Planet's personal leave policy was, because Clark just shows right back up to work after being missing for so long. And secondly, if they couldn't see through the glasses, the fact that Clark comes back with long hair and Superman comes back with long hair.
I had never, ever, for 30 years, I have never.
What's clearly happening is what happened in the Silver Age. He has super hypnotism, and he's super hypnotizing everybody. That's what's really going on. Yeah.
I love that issue. I'm glad you guys brought that up before. Perch brought that up. Perch brought that up recently. Yeah.
Super hypnotism?
The super hypnotism.
So
it's super ventriloquism too.
Man in the front, super at the back.
This comic was really, I had this, I think my one of my parents had this comic as a kid, and this was before I really read comics. I just kind of looked at the pictures, and this was my least favorite of the comics that my parents had, because from a purely kid image standpoint, I'm like, colors are washed out, Superman's not really in it, and oh my gosh, they're scary monster demons. What am I had no idea what I was looking at. So not a story for your kids.
That makes sense to me, because like I was in my mid-teens, like I was 15, 16 when that came out. So I was like, that idea of growing up and having kids like was burbling. You know what I'm saying? It was like that was the next stage of my life that I was getting ready for. And things were complex with my dad, right? I mean, so that was one of those things where like I really keyed into parts of that, but it was one of those things where I was, so I mean, the idea of what fathers and sons could be was something that was really appealing to me.
Yeah. So for those of you who are looking to maybe get this issue, you're in for a wild ride, because after he's in Korea or whatever, he goes to like essentially hell. It's pretty much the stereotypical description of that. So again, it's not a comic for your kids. But
Yeah, post-crisis Superman had a routine set of villains, Lord Satanus and his demonic sister Blaze. And that was Blaze on screen. And they were both trying to outdo each other to steal stuff, and it was a whole thing. Superman fought off hell.
Dies, he's going to hell.
What?
It's good to know when Superman dies, he's going to hell.
Yeah, or he can get interrupted in the interim. That was
I didn't like the afterlife implications here, but I will say that one thing I did like, because like I said, there's some weirdness going on in this book, some stuff I'm not a fan of. The thing that I like, and this is I think the thing that Rhys, that you and I are both resonating with, is that this is a story where so in some ways it would not be my favorite Superman story because I want to see Superman do what is going on here. But in some ways, what I'm resonating with that I really like is at the very end here, Superman is, because he's dead, and that's the only reason why this is happening. But because Superman's dead, he's kind of like, I'm dead. I should go to the afterlife, essentially. And Pa Kent is like, over my dead body you will. Haha. Even though they're both sort of in a dead space right now. And so Pa Kent materializes out of the ether a shovel so that he can bash what is the ghost of Jor-El and be like, son, we ain't dying today like hell we are. And there's this sort of like very military spirit of like, you ain't dying today, son.
It's not really the ghost of Jor-El. It's
true. I know, but it's a manifestation that looks like it. So
yes.
For some intents and purposes, that's kind of what's going on here. But Pa Kent is like, come hell or high water, I'm dragging you back to life. And that's that kind of that spirit of a father who will not, who goes to the underworld. There's something very Grecian almost in this, but a very fatherly version of it, as opposed to Orpheus, of like, I'm bringing you back. And at the very end of it, he ends up, they kind of go into the light, not into the light, but they go out of the light, as it were. And then Pa Kent says, we both did. I brought him back. I made it. We did it. I brought my son back. And this is what sets off Reign of the Supermen, which some people have mixed feelings about. But
go up one page real quick. I saw something funny.
Yeah. This one?
Or where was it? The page we were just looking at.
This one?
Page before that. You probably saw the same thing I saw.
There it is. Stop.
Yep.
So that panel says they said this would lead to damnation, Pennsylvania.
That's what I was thinking. I said, "There's a hell, Michigan." I actually Googled just now. Is there a damnation, Pennsylvania?
That's perfect.
There's not, but there should be now.
Okay. This way leads to damnation, PA. We can't go there.
That's pretty much the whole state.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, Mike is back.
Again? Okay.
We'll see how well it works. It seems to be working. That connection looks a lot better, man.
Yeah. It was choppy before.
Maybe you need some more RAM in that machine.
You can download some. I'll give you a website.
God damn it, Twitless.
You laughed.
Yes, I did.
It'll lead you to damnation, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also laugh whenever somebody talks back in the day when people would talk about their new cool cup holder on their PCs, but it doesn't mean it was a good idea.
Oh, dude. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've worked in IT for 40 years. And so this is going to sound like I read it on the internet. This happened. We had we had a help desk for these programmers, and the lady called in and said, I click on the button and I don't get what I'm supposed to get. And they're like, they wrote the programs that she's going through. She's clicking on the mouse button. They're like, they walked her through it for like 40 minutes. And the guy said, I don't know what I was thinking, but when I said, click the button, she says, I clicked it. Now you see the screen? Nope. And he's like, let go of the mouse. Oh, there it is. He says, I don't know how she dialed the damn phone. But they had written the thing on mouse up instead of mouse down, and they changed that because she was holding the button down the whole time and not getting where she thought she'd go.
Oh,
I don't know what's funny.
So when she was setting the mouse up the first time?
No, the C program was written so that said, display this window on mouse button up on the release of it. And she held it down the whole time and dialed the phone and sat there and talked to them. Because if she had just let go of the mouse, she'd have had the screen. It wouldn't have called.
Wow.
Also, Raw Rasputin says Damnation PA sounds like a town Chuck Dixon would write about, doesn't it just? Now, if Chuck watched my show, he'd have a little bit of gold to work with, but I know he doesn't. He shouldn't have to. I'm just saying.
His life would be enriched if he did.
Probably not. It probably takes important time away from writing things that actually make money. I mean, not that Damnation PA wouldn't, but my show is not necessarily that valuable.
It's right there at the end of Route 666.
There you go.
All right, let's keep things moving here. We got a couple more comics to get through.
So, Mike, did you have any thoughts on Adventures of Superman 500 before we move on to your pick?
Is that the one where he's in the afterlife with his dad? Who's wow?
Yes, it is.
I knew just from that scene of him smacking the thing with the shovel. I knew that story. Whose favorite was that?
Mine.
That's yours. Wow.
It was actually my second favorite.
Okay.
It's been running because I also really like Under a Yellow Sun, but that's not necessarily the best Superman story. But
well, I was debating what is the favorite, because when you say what's my favorite Superman story, the first thing that pops into my head is, well, I'm just going to share it, so that I think that's really the best way. Let's see, share slides from my computer. Oh, let's see, upload file, and then I go point to it.
Rasputin says he'll pass it along to Chuck next time he asks a question for his show. Oh, you must be you're cool. You're sub to him. Sweet.
Oh, for crying out loud, it's not working. Let's see. Well,
if you tell me the comic, I'll look it up. Is it the one?
I have painstakingly downloaded everything. Okay, I have it all here. So, do I just share where it says share screen?
You can share window, like your whole window, but that window has to be active, or you can share like a Google Chrome tab.
Okay, gotcha.
So if you minimize if you share a window, but then you minimize the window, it'll go away.
Okay, so if I hit share screen, then share screen. There we go. That's the close that. So
we were just talking about IT tech support. RJ, it's your turn at bat.
I want to share.
I'm not seeing it here for me to share it out.
No, I'm sharing. Here we go. Preview is, I guess, what I want. So, Chrome has lost permission to capture your. Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, talk amongst yourselves.
He's all verklempt.
All right, we're gonna do. I think we should go to Captain Cummings next, and then
go. I'll come back to me.
Did you have a separate book to pitch that we haven't read because we brought you on late?
Well, my choice would have been either the one we're about to talk about or the one we already talked about. The Man of Tomorrow. What happened to the Man of Tomorrow? What I really particularly like was it has that classic Silver Age look, with Kurt Swan's art, but then it distinctly looks different because you have, George Perez inking it. And so it's almost like taking the old and, transitioning to the new at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's what I particularly, it looks so weird to me because it looks like George Perez, but then it also looks like Kurt Swan at the same time.
Let's not short Murphy Anderson's work on those covers either. He was, that's why they were both signed Swanderson.
And so I had a hard choice after that. And then as soon as we started, I knew I was going to at least make some people angry. I am actually only choosing one issue from this, but All-Star Superman. And it's the date issue because I thought that was just fun.
Yeah, that is a really good one, the Super Date, which I actually have. I think, let me see if I can't find it. Because I've got a digital copy of that one.
Is that the one where he gives Lois the superpowers?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's her birthday, so it's the superpower issues. And I think it's the same issue as well, where you have Atlas and Samson trying to like win her affections, and Superman's annoyed. It's all good stuff. It's like when you look at Lois Lane's Silver Age covers, and
you mean the ones the ones where he's always a douchebag and he's like murdering her, and then you read the story and it's just her hallucinating.
Yeah. Well, that's what even the cover to the All-Star Superman, I think, was she thinks he's designing a gun to kill her.
Yeah, there was a huge homage to those types of stories. So Grant knew what he was doing with that when he was doing the homage bits.
No, I am wrong. I bought the physical. I had to read that book for a class, and I bought the physical copy.
Sorry, I had to step away for a second. Captain Cummings, what was your pick?
That issue.
Yeah, it's
from All-Star Superman
issue 4 or 5.
Okay.
That's the one with the. It looks like it's like 2 or 3. But I'm not. I don't actually have the issue in front of me.
And that's the one where they face off with the Ultra Sphinx, and he has to solve the world's greatest riddle, the riddle of like time and space and whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah, the Ultra Sphinx says, "What happens when the unstoppable force meets the immovable object?" And it's like, "Oh no, it's the unsolvable riddle." And Superman says, "They surrender." And then the Ultra Sphinx says something like, "Answer acceptable."
And I'm not like the biggest fan of Frank Quietly's art in regular comics, like superhero comics. I'd rather see him on like other stuff, but it works for this All-Star Superman because it's something totally different. It's not your regular Superman stories.
You're killing Rhys here. Rhys hates All-Star Superman.
I do, and like I said, I did say that the whole Lois thing, not terrible.
Good point.
It's the only thing. Man, I like
how Frank Quietly drew Lois. See, that's probably the Lois I thought was the most attractive out of all of like her incarnations. I was like, wow, she looks like someone I'd be attracted to. A lot of times the way Lois is portrayed, I'm just not a fan. I'm more I like Lana Lang in terms of physical attractiveness. If we're going with, what are you guys looking at me like I'm crazy for? Like one of the first things you do in comics is rate which girls you want to date. Don't you give me that weird
I don't know.
look.
After a while, it's all blonde, brunette, redhead. I don't know.
I was a Lana girl myself.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And of course, she gets left off the Ginger Genocide pages when they cast her with Kristen Crook, but Lana gets no love.
I will say that something about All-Star Superman, the sequencing is always a little weird with Quietly, because of he'll leave certain panels out, which like leads to some weird gaps in the action. So he does a very interesting job with sequencing. That was one thing I noticed.
I find that in a lot of Grant Morrison books entirely. When he did Justice League, he's always skipping things and like, that'll. You know what happened in your head. He just lets that happen.
Okay, so is that more Morrison's fault than quite?
Yeah, Morrison's huge jump guy.
All right, because there's this one shot in like the final like issue or two, and it's is it Natalia or whoever Nashtalia, whoever. It's Lex Luthor's evil niece that they introduced for no reason, and she's got like a super tank that shoots lasers, and like. The shot where like you should actually have her shoot the laser is not seen. You see the tank and then you see like just the absence of a car. And it's like, we're missing a panel here.
Rate my superhero love interest. I might actually watch that.
Jean Grey. For life.
Yeah. Barbara Gordon. Early 70s Barbara Gordon.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, hey, we got a thing for Mike's thing.
Totally different show.
Oh yeah,
Terra Man.
All right, Hutch, you're muted.
There we go. The first appearance of Terra Man. I am utterly not serious.
Oh, dude.
Sorry.
But Terramon was great.
That was a lot of work for a joke.
Okay.
I do have that comic though.
Good point.
Yeah.
That is a great drawn horse, though. I mean, look at it. I mean, Pegasus. I'm sorry.
You know, I gotta say, I actually have.
I actually
a
like the character. I was like, what could be the most not favorite? So many people
Terraman.
hate the character.
It's a super special, a silver anniversary Superman story.
Yeah, well, I actually love Terraman. I love the idea that because he's
What
so
is that
far.
where you use the same letter in a row that many times?
I'm sorry, what?
What is it when you use the same letter like multiple times in a row like that?
Alliteration.
Alliteration. There we go. I'm sorry.
The latest, the greatest. Anyway, but yeah, I
Metal-
love it. So if that's not your real one, Mike, what's your real one?
Super special silver Superman story.
Metal says, "Put me on that show. I will be hypercritical on everyone's crushes, especially Twitless."
Hang on just a second. It's going to be a little painstaking to navigate back and forth. So, sorry, it's just the way it is. So, I think if I do this, does this? Can you see? Oh, nope. It puts a new tab. See, I have to share a tab. And I have to
How do you run
designate-
StreamYard on a Trash 80?
I'm sorry. What?
I said, how do you run StreamYard on a TRS-80 computer? I just want to see the emulator.
This is my work Mac. It isn't set up.
Oh,
right.
you
I
explained everything.
I had all this ready to go on my PC, but my PC, it sits in a corner and some nights it just doesn't get the signal quite right. Whereas I never have a problem with this laptop. So, but as far as sharing files, I wish I could just send these files to somebody because I can't seem to share them at all efficiently. So I'm sorry, but
If there's an issue, I can pull it up. So if there's a particular issue, I may not be able to like pull up your slides, but I can pull up the issue for reference.
well, when I think about this is the story that always comes to mind. It just jumps into my head as it's like this is a pre-crisis game changer. This story, I mean, when Alan Moore wrote this, he wasn't thinking that they're going to reboot Superman next year. It's this is just continuing on the Bronze Age Superman, but I just love his touch for being able to, as you say, grab all the stuff out of the Silver Age. Everything from the Bottle City of Kandor is mentioned here to the all these elements of Krypton that are from old stories that generally aren't brought up much in the 80s, but the petrified glass forest is there.
And the Super Zoo.
The Super Zoo, which oh gosh, I got to find the exact scene and show you because in scanning this, I noticed something about the Super Zoo. It's actually quite problematic. Okay, I'm going to share this one here. I'll drag it over. I'll have to share. I have to go back in and hit share. So sorry, it's just cumbersome. But
I've got
this-
I've got Superman Annual 11 pulled up. I can share some stuff from it. So you just point me where you want to go, and I'll go there.
Just notice all these. They're in little cages with like no room to move. it's like the containers for the animals are exactly as big as the animals and no more. It's like, geez, we don't do zoos like this anymore. But this is I don't know how accurate that is to the way it was always done, or maybe that's why it is done that way, despite the fact that they probably know better.
I think it's just done like that to represent like they're in a cage, like because
yeah. So
I was more bothered by the moment where like all the moths die because it's like, oh, the moths that are now exposed to like light are all dying, and it's like,
oh, that's right, because they're being thrown through he's like some of the animals are dying as they're
The neon moths, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read this in a long time. So.
Yeah, it took. Yeah, I just noticed it. I think on my last reread, I was like, oh gosh, there's some collateral damage here.
And I had never read this before, so I read it for the first time yesterday.
Oh really?
Yeah.
And for a time frame context, they had already like approved Watchmen. While this story, and then they, what was it? Dave Gibbons was asked to do a Superman story, and they go, "Oh, well, choose any writer you want." And he goes, "Well, I'm going to do Alan Moore."
This book has one of my favorite Batman and Robin panels on it, by the way.
Which one?
When they're walking through the snow from the Bat plane to the front door, and Wonder
I was
Woman has
hoping you were
landed the
going to say
invisible
that.
jet.
That made me smile just looking at Batman.
There it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Oh, geez, I'm painstakingly pulling up all my images, and you guys aren't even looking at them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just swapped over to Twitless's because he was talking about that exact. He had it at that exact moment. So
I do too. I was trying to pull it up in another tab, but then I have to close, open, select. It's like it's.
Well, since I have the comic, if you just want to direct me to places, I will pull the panels up, and I will say this is all credit to Hutch because of all the work you did.
So also, Mrs. H in the chat is talking about the size of the cages. They got to fit the cages on the train for the Barton and Bailey's.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hutch, if you don't mind, though, for people who have not read this, can you give a very brief synopsis of what is going on in this story?
Yeah. Superman, Batman, and Jason Todd, back when he was cheery and happy and not revamped post-crisis, they are landing in the invisible jet and the bat plane in the north to go and give presents to Superman. And when they go inside, they find Superman catatonic with a strange floral creature with vines wrapped around him. And it is split. The story is split between this creature, which is giving Superman his happiest possible life, so that he will stay there and never. It's basically like being in better than life in Red Dwarf.
The Black Mercy.
He's so happy he never wants to come back. That is ostensibly what's happening. Although what happens is Superman is living out his life on Krypton as Krypton never exploded. But it is surprisingly realistic. Instead of being a cheery, happy, hey, I'm with my mom and dad, yay! It's like, okay, he's an adult and he's just working a job and he gets to see his dad, and his dad is a disgraced scientist because he was telling everybody that Krypton was going to blow up and it didn't. And so he is kind of a relic, and Superman has a kid. He has a wife and a daughter. A daughter and a son.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, and I'm sorry, when I said kid and a daughter, it's like a son and a daughter. And so he should be happy, but he's kind of morose. There's protests. There's people handing out flyers protesting the fact that people are still trapped in the Phantom Zone and how cruel that is. And
there's the Kryptonian KKK.
You said that, and in prepping for this, and I was like, oh, I never saw that. And you were saying it's so obvious. And it's like, that never. I just saw these RAW activists, and I never put it together that it's synonymous with the KKK. I don't know.
I'll pull it up. Let's let chat decide.
Yeah, please do. I mean, quite frankly, it's the element that least. I don't know. I didn't know what to do with that he's leading this group of RAW activists. It's like, okay, so you're okay.
Oh, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, this is the panel where I was like, this is pretty on the nose.
Yeah. But of course, I don't know if it's just that I don't really have memories of the KKK or anything, so it didn't.
I mean,
really
neither do I.
But I just look. See, I just get so into the universe. I'm just like, oh, okay, so they're the priests of Rao, and why is it's like all metaphor kind of escapes me. I just.
The only time I remember the KKK was on. I don't know if these were actually Klan members. Was on Jerry Springer.
We don't need to keep talking about the KKK throughout our meeting. I don't want to get this banned by YouTube. I love the scene where he is telling his dad, sometimes I think you wish that Krypton had exploded, and he pulls out he like, I forget what he has in his hand, but he just beats this this glass bird, and it's sad because it's a petrified glass bird from the petrified forest. It's like, it's a priceless thing, but I don't know. I did think it kind of odd that, by the way, that Krypton has birds and dogs, and then it has mind beasts that telepathically tell you that they're about to charge, and all these other weird monsters. But
and also the ones with the
great
television screens on their heads.
Yeah, exactly. The thought beasts. Yeah,
thought beasts. Yeah.
It's like, but they also have dogs that are flawlessly like our dogs. So, yeah, their flora and fauna are kind of like, weird.
Well, their people are flawlessly like our people too. So.
Well, yeah.
Take that for what it's worth.
Anyway, I do like this one a lot. This is what, and as far as I'm concerned, if somebody asks you your favorite movie and you're like, Star Wars, oh no, wait, I suppose it's like, if Star Wars is what automatically jumps in, then that's your favorite, and you can convince yourself of something else. But I hate to go to the Alan Moore well, it's like nobody else wrote anything good. Of course, it's just, I loved how Robin saves the day. I didn't really get into all that. So meanwhile, while Superman is having this traumatic...
Jerry Ordway for that very reason.
Yeah. So while Superman is having this kind of traumatic... And I think it's his brain rebelling against the thing trying to give him his heart's desire. Because that's not really his heart's desire to be
Black Mercy.
In a terrible, in a terrible, everything is turmoil and unhappy Krypton. That's not really his heart's content. But meanwhile, Superman or Batman and Wonder Woman encounter Mongol, who sent that as a gift to incapacitate Superman as revenge, because Mongol actually I actually toyed with the idea as I was going through DC Comics Presents. I toyed with the idea of Mongol's first appearance, not his first appearance, which was with Martian Manhunter, but the following issue when Superman and Supergirl, excuse me, I'm catching my throat. Superman and Supergirl went to fight Mongol on Warworld, and he had managed to get Warworld a planet-sized weapon so big that it passes behind a star, and the star is like smaller than the Warworld, and Superman's looking at it with his vision and freaks out about how big it is, and he's so zoomed in on Mongol he doesn't even realize that behind him is a rocket that fills the background to the point that it looks like the sky, but it's actually just an entire rocket that is being launched at him. And there's all these wonderful visuals in that. That's another story that I loved, but I sought that out when I was trying to find out who this guy was. So he's a guy who has a big mean on for Superman because it cost him Warworld to have fought Superman.
But he always gets it back.
What's that?
But he always gets it back, it seems.
He always does get it back, because what is Mongol without Warworld?
Well,
he's just a guy with big brows.
It's too well. Okay, this is the story. Mongol is actually, I think, in recent Action Comics, kind of had a resurgence. Mm-hmm. But Mongol, as you can see in some of these Superman stories, was like kind of like the original villain who could take on Superman. And with a very and in a very and in a very sinister affect as well, because as you can see by how Gibbons is portraying him with the almost skull-like protrusions over his eyebrows, he kind of, and the pale skin. He aside from the sort of like pinkish coloring or purplish coloring of the suit, he's a very threatening character. I remember one of the first appearances I read of Mongol. It was a Flash comic, and I just, as a kid, I remember reading this Mongol saying, "I'm gonna like tear out your eyes" or something, and I was just like, "Whoa, this villain means business." So Mongol was one of, like, I think those early villains who kind of like meant business. And he was also smart too. He's not a big dumb thug. He's intelligent. That's why he uses the Black Mercy to essentially take Superman off the board effortlessly. And then he overpowers everyone else. I will say, though, this story does have a few moments in it that do trouble me. Because it's a good story, and the animated version they did in Justice League that Fiona Wolf was mentioning earlier is an extremely good episode. Dwayne McDuffie adapted this so well that I think Alan Moore actually liked it, which is saying a lot considering Alan Moore. But
I thought it was J.M. DeMatteis adapted it.
Was it?
Or did they do it together?
I know McDuffie was like the main man behind Justice League, the show.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't care for the adaptation.
Did you know? Okay.
It leaves out so much of the stuff that I liked, and go ahead.
I think it does some things. It might even do some things a little bit better. Although it's kind of like, up to you depending on how you interpret it. But I'm going to pull up a panel because this comic unfortunately does something that is endemic of Alan Moore, and I do have to point it out.
Sure.
So Alan Moore often crosses an uncomfortable line in how he portrays violence against women. And I point this out because it's an ongoing pattern. You can see it in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You can see it, I think, even in some degree, V for Vendetta. Just the list goes on. Watchmen, it's there. And as opposed to having superhero action where the men and women are cartoonishly or in action movie sense kind of like punching each other all over the place, Alan Moore will depict the panels of like grabbing the hair, rubbing the woman's face into the ground. And what he does, and I think he's doing it on purpose, but what ends up happening is he takes the superhero fantasy and he basically twists it on its head so that you basically are watching like domestic abuse. And I think Moore is doing this on purpose. And I think he's even doing this on purpose as a slight deconstruction, a satirization almost move in the superhero genre. I don't like it. I've seen it so many times. I'm like, here we go again. Here's another scene where Alan Moore is going to, and you can see it. This is one of there's a couple panels where he does it in this story, but in this particular panel, you can see it. He's Mongel's got Wonder Woman by the hair. It's like it crosses this uncomfortable line that Alan Moore crosses too often for me to not notice it. So that's one problem I've got with the comic. And then the other problem I have, it is a good story. Let me preface this. It is a good story in a lot of ways, but it's also a comic that I have mixed feelings about because of how far it pushes Superman, the aspirational hero, into nearly murderous territory. This panel here is the one I'm thinking of, where you see like Superman has death in his eyes. Mm-hmm. That being said, Superman when he has the moment, and Mongol actually comments on this, Superman kind of like doesn't kill, so he does kind of hold himself back. But even when he does that, it's almost like, it's when he looks and sees like the collapsing Krypton, I think, sculpture. And so, like I said, this story pushes Superman to his physical in some ways, but also I think his ethical limits in others. And so, like I said, for that reason, this story, like I said, I have some mixed feelings regarding it, even though it is very well constructed. And it definitely is in my top list of, when I think of a good Superman story, it definitely is on that list.
Well, I have to say, in his defense, just a little bit, I loved how Wonder Woman is capable of standing up to Mongol, a guy who can take on Superman head on. And this is at a time when Wonder Woman was not, Superman could juggle planets and Wonder Woman can't. And I really want Superman to be more like her level rather than her being his. And they keep like putting them as equals, which means that Wonder Woman is ridiculously powerful if Superman is. But anyway, I'm getting off on a rant. I like that she takes him on and she isn't afraid. She stands up to him. She's like holding her own while Batman sits there using his brains trying to figure out how to get the thing off of Superman.
Yeah.
And whereas traditional male chauvinism. Oh no!
He gets locked up with chauvinism.
Yeah, I know, right? Perfect freeze frame.
Yeah. But she
okay.
She takes him on. Yes, go ahead.
You're locked up at chauvinism.
Oh, it locked up at chauvinism.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I heard you completely. I didn't know that I had a lag.
No,
I'm
there was
sorry.
there was about 45 seconds.
I was lagged up for 45 seconds.
And it was more like 10. I think it was more like 10.
Okay,
Maybe.
I have no idea. Chauvinism. What was I saying? Well, it was really
You said
good.
something about traditional male chauvinism.
Wait, I think what you were trying to say is the fact that traditional male chauvinism would have had Superman taking on Mongol and Wonder Woman doing
Batman.
the
Batman
support
would
work.
have to take on Mongol.
Sorry,
because
yeah.
because like he has to protect her, but no, she's able to fight him, and Batman uses his brains, and then when Batman is incapacitated, taking the flower off of Superman, only because I think Superman is bringing himself out of it. He's beginning to see that this world is not real, and I think the reason that the whole false reality is disturbing instead of a dream come true is I think that's Superman's brain trying to send him messages. I don't know, it's just a guess. I don't know.
I agree. I agree with your interpretation. I think that's.
And I think one of the things about that is that like, I think this is might be, but Superman is often portrayed, and Captain Marvel too, is often portrayed as being these heroes that are.
I love that scene.
Well, that scene's great. But they're portrayed as being these heroes that have no reality. They're just so naive. There's no nuance to them. They believe in this heroism that's just unattainable. And what you see here in the subtext of this story is that Superman knows the world's corrupt. He's just not going to let that bring him down. So when he's presented with a world that's too pretty, he subconsciously dirties it up because the world is messy, because life is messy, because morality is messy. And
I love this scene where he goes to the Kandor crater, and it's like, what would they do with the crater of Kandor if Krypton just hung around, all that time? And his son's like, is that going to happen to us? Or are we going to disappear? He's like, no, we'll be fine. That was a long time ago. And it's like they're just on this planet where this alien showed up and sucked up a city, and they never saw it again, and that's it. And it's just stayed a crater all this time. And it's just the ways that he conveys this, and there's just a highway leading to it saying Kandor crater this way.
I always loved the fact that Kandor's infrastructure still worked in the bottle.
Yeah. Well, I always figured that that's how good Brainiac is at bottling up these cities. He makes sure all the plumbing works and the sewage and everything, and he wants these to be a contained, exactly as it is thing. He doesn't want a city that's all distraught because it's had an earthquake and everything is destroyed. So it's beautifully captured and preserved.
Yes. I always wanted Ray Palmer to shrink down into the Kandor in the Silver Age so he could be a full-size Superman among people.
Well, anyway, this is so I really do love this story. At the end, I love the end where everybody has read this, and if they haven't, you don't lose anything by knowing how it ends. Superman wins.
No, you don't say.
Mongol, because of Jason Todd, and I love this period of Jason Todd being capable and young and rather innocent, and he's the circus performer, not the street tough that he later became. I did not mind that Jason Todd anyway, but he hurls the thing down on Mongol, and Mongol immediately in his mind defeats Superman and rips his head off and sticks it on a pike and goes out to conquer the universe. And
it's a great play-by-play of like, because the fun thing about that is like Mongol has already like mapped all this stuff out. And so when the Black Mercy takes over his consciousness, he just plays out the plan he was already making.
Right.
So,
and the next thing you see is Adam Strange and Guardians of the Universe are all kneeling in front of him, and the war world is rebuilt and is out destroying planets right and left. And there's Hiathus. It's like, this is great. This Adam Strange. I don't know what else is on the
Martian Manhunter's there.
Yeah. And it's just all the alien races all obey him and kneel in front of him, and Look at how happy he is. What a great ending. So, regarding the here's the thing. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have the because of the technical problems I've had tonight. I won't be able to show you all the stuff that I worked so hard to show you, but I got to show you this. So, if you don't mind, I will share one file that I have open. When Alan Moore was set to do the ending of Action and Superman, there was one other Superman book, and it was DC Comics Presents, and it was allowed to have a final issue too. And the more I thought about this, the more my favorite story is the Phantom Zone from 1982, the Phantom Zone miniseries by Steve Gerber. And I went and got a whole bunch of scans. And what I liked about it is that it was surprisingly brutal for a code-approved book in 1982, but it was kind of tying in with how brutal the Phantom Zone villains are in the 1982 Superman 2 movie. And so it's kind of a tie-in, but not. And it's a really good look at who each of the villains in the Phantom Zone are, and they all get out, and Superman is stuck in the Phantom Zone as they all burst out. And they start World War III. They grab the satellite of the Justice League and just hurl it outside of the solar system. And the few heroes that are left on Earth, like Wonder Woman and Supergirl and Green Lantern, and some of the mightiest members of the League are still there, but they have to take on these guys who are all as powerful as Superman. It is really tough. At one point, Jaxer grabs Supergirl by the hair and twirls her around the Fortress of Solitude.
And Alan Moore didn't write that.
Alan Moore did not write that. But
Yeah,
Twitless. She can withstand having her hair yanked. She's a Kryptonian. But you didn't see stuff like that. And in
Alan Moore and Gibbons, they still cross lines. I'm sorry.
He
does it way too
I'm not
often.
talking about that. But
Way too often.
I'm not talking about that. But I love the Phantom Zone because for 1982, it's kind of taking this. I mean, Superman comics, hardly anybody ever dies. I mean, really, the stories of that era just are kind of bloodless. You know, it sets up a fun story and then it resolves it, and Titano goes off to his, whatever. It's like, nobody ever gets stepped on by Titano when he shows up and jumps around.
Unfortunately.
So, yeah, and
I do need to make a small correction because Hutch, you were correct. The Justice League Unlimited episode was written by Mateus and directed by Dan Reba. However, I was correct in the sense that because I was relating that McDuffie and Tim were the ones who I think related the story of Alan Moore being pleased with the episode. So that's where I think I got that wire crossed.
Yeah,
did we lose?
Duffy was the showrunner.
Yeah. Did we lost?
He's back. He's back.
Okay.
Back. I dragged the picture into the tab that I'm in, and I lost you. I'm sorry. Okay. This is really cumbersome. Jeez. I'm sorry.
RJ, you're failing us. You're supposed to be tech support.
I can't do it remote.
Okay. I mean, you could. We just have to give remote access to his computer, which would not compromise his privacy at all.
No, not at all.
It's just his work computer.
It's just his work computer.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll say this though about Mongol. The thing I hate about Mongol is that he has a sister named Mongal.
That's so dumb.
Oh yeah, she's dumb.
When did that start?
You really have a sister named Mongal?
Yeah.
I think that was
when it started.
I can't remember when that was, but
yeah, I'm sharing the cover to Phantom Zone 2 there. So this is this is still a code approved book, but it is just it's so brutal. It covers how Feora Hu'al is like a serial killer on Krypton.
You said this is Steve Gerber?
Yeah, it is Steve Gerber. Yeah. And Gray Morrow does the artwork, and it's like they're not usual superhero teams, The cover might be by somebody different. It's Gene Colan and Dick Giordano on the cover. But I love this series because it's more brutal than usual, but it is nowhere near as brutal as DC has become since Jeff Johns and Dan Didio took over DC Comics. And it's raining eyeballs in Green Lantern. It's not like that, but there's a part in issue 4 where Theora Hu'al actually is naked in a river in Europe, and this goat herd sees her, and she beckons him forward and hugs him and crushes him and sends him falling into the water. It's like, first of all, there was no nudity in DC Comics back then, and I'm trying to I can share that one.
Naked women in rivers beckoning men is never a good thing.
Well,
we have Neostar and Sporkman in chat. Good to see you. Sporkman Studio says, "Hutch, you need team viewer," and Neostar says, "Wasn't there a Kryptonian werewolf?"
Kryptonian werewolf. There's a guy who took a horn from a monster and becomes a Rondor. That's it. It's a Rondor. So, this isn't anything. This is PG. She's covering herself, and there's not even any side boob or anything. It's still more nudity than I ever saw in comic books at the time. And I was like, oh, my goodness. It's like, they aren't even married.
Well, Steve Gerber was like the original edgelord.
The original what?
Edgelord.
Okay. Well, I didn't know I have no idea who he was. And I bring all this up. I mentioned this to mention that, and to quote the no longer quotable Bill Cosby. But I told you this story to tell you that one. The reason I brought all this up is I have to show you, and I don't want to show this until I tell this story, okay? DC Comics Presents number 97 has Steve Gerber is allowed to bring back his Phantom Zone as a tie-in, and I didn't even realize the connection to the miniseries that I loved because I didn't realize the same writer and everything. But it's more about the all the characters from the miniseries. 4 years later, you get to see them again, and Mr. Mxyzptlk is like put into prison, and he in the prison bonds because he's in the 6th dimension. He bonds with this other dimensional being that runs the Phantom Zone, and they merge, and he lets the Phantom Zone villains out. Superman is on the planet, and he sees something plunging towards Earth that's going to bust it into chunks so that it can't hurt everybody.
Chuck, you froze up again.
I'm here.
So I know you are.
Chunk of kryptonite.
Yeah.
Is that where I lost you?
No.
You said it's about to plunge into the.
Okay, this big piece of kryptonite is about to plunge into the atmosphere. Superman flies up, even though the kryptonite is killing him. He busts it into pieces, and it turns out to be not just a big chunk of kryptonite. It is Argo City, with all the corpses of all the Kryptonians who are still on it, raining down onto the city.
It's raining men
everywhere.
Oh my God, Charge!
And to give you an idea of how twisted this is, he's basically bringing an end to not only the Phantom Zone, but Mr. Mxyzptlk, he's doing his own thing of his own ending to the Superman.
Any minute, he'll come back.
It's like Father Bizarro Jor-El, who never existed. Me send only son to center of Bizarro world, so him be first to die. Please tell me I didn't lose you.
Yes.
No.
Oh, you lost.
I lost you?
Just for a little bit.
Just for a little bit. I think we
for crying out loud. Did you see the picture?
Yes.
We have the picture. We have the picture.
All right. Did you see the last panel? I was reading it aloud to you, but I don't know if you saw it. But he says, "Me send only son to center of Bizarro World, so him die first."
Yes.
Bizarro rockets his baby to the center of the planet so that he dies first.
I mean, that is what you would want to do as Bizarro.
Well, yeah,
That makes sense.
I think it's the greatest Bizarro in one feature. It's the best Bizarro moment ever.
If you're 10 though and you read that, it's
Yeah.
just going to be so funny.
So Evie, I want to see a meme. This might be part of our new opening, where Hutch like does that thing, that last cut where he was like, and it's about to crash into the, and then you freeze frame, and then you play the that thing from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the to be continued meme. Roundabout. It's the song Roundabout. You know the one I'm talking about. Yeah. So that's I think should be our new opening.
That's
I
amazing.
hate all the technical problems I've had on this wonderful episode.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. I feel like an infection on this planet. Actually,
No, you're more like the Black Mercy. You put us into this hellish paradise.
Oh
That's
dear.
hilarious. Also, I'd like to point out how much that scenario is exactly like what issue 6, 7 in Morrison's All-Star Superman.
What happens in that? I didn't read it.
Well, it's a Bizarro world.
Yeah, they
He's
do.
in the
Yeah,
Bizarro world and he's trying to get back.
Yeah.
On a tray.
There's an entire side story with all the Bizarro stuff. That was the low point of that graphic novel for me.
Oh,
Bizarro's a fun character in tiny doses.
Yeah.
You could never really have him in a movie. You'd be so sick of that backward stuff, It's just it's damn cold. It's like
Unless he's in Superman and Lois now.
Of course.
So Neostar says, "I want less Bizarro. Take back Bizarro," but I don't know if he's speaking in Bizarro or not.
I think he is.
We are simply going to have to leave it a mystery.
And
Unless
we
explains it.
have Jack X Street in chat. Good to see you. I think that's the
Yes.
first time seeing you there. Blizzard Superman was an amazing HeroClix piece. Oh, HeroClix.
He meant Bizarro Superman autocorrect.
Oh, okay, all right, gotcha. That makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
HeroClix was cool. It was a game I could never really afford to play because the pieces are really expensive. I got a few free ones.
That's amazing, RJ.
I made that years ago, and I very seldom get a chance to use it. But tonight's the night.
We've been Rickrolled.
Did you just Bizarro roll us?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Oh
Yes,
gosh.
he's been Bizarro Rickrolled. Always come from take me down. Always come from stop me up.
I love how Superman's just like, what the hell?
Even I, Superman, am confounded by this.
Speaking of HeroClix, they made some City of Heroes ones, and I think Cartoonicus had one, and I might have gotten one as well. I don't remember, but there's your City of Heroes reference, guys, for today.
Our obligatory City of Heroes reference.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we've gone through everybody's talking points. Is there anything we want to wrap up with?
Go read some Superman, chat.
Yeah. The titles we have discussed today will be in the description, at least of all the ones that I can remember. Maybe I'll even put on links for you to buy them from my favorite comic shop. I probably won't do that.
Okay.
That's probably too much work. Superman is too pure to meme, Neo says. Well, I don't know that I agree with that, but that's funny to think about. So also in the description, you can go buy Twitless's comic, The Adventures of Omega Girl, on Amazon.
Yes, please do.
You also can go.
If you like, wait, I have to say, if you like Superman and Supergirl, you're gonna love Adventures of Omega Girl.
I do believe that's true,
just
especially Bronze Age Superman and Supergirl. And you can also go check out Critical Blast on his website there, and you can also go check out thehutch.com, where Hutch has got some movie reviews and pop culture commentary and other stuff like that. Actually, that's what Critical Blast has got on it too. So, and
So
hey,
we started out doing. I don't know where we are now.
yeah,
Oh, before we go, okay, I think it's speaking of memes, it's actually kind of funny, but Cartoonicus actually sent me one of Superman, which I think is actually pretty funny.
okay.
So I should share this.
I love that one. That's what I was
That's
going to share.
That is great.
It's why that whole thing doesn't work today.
Thank you, Neostar and Fiona Wolf, for shouting out Omega Girl. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Jack X Treed says not huge on Superman, but never forget he always beats Goku. Oh, we're gonna start a fight with that.
Actually, that's a question I'd like to get we'll have to have we should have brought that up when we did Superman Smashes the Klan, because Marmaduke fan might have some interesting insights into that particular discussion from an interesting weeb perspective.
Weed perspective?
Weeb.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's like Klan and weed. What does that have?
Oh, jeez.
The weed perspective. No, as far as I'm aware, Marm does not partake.
Well,
so,
if you would share that little image that I shared, by the way,
ooh, sure.
that is Gray Morrow doing my favorite superhero, Elongated Man. And that's that wonderful shot of them throwing the JLA satellite out of orbit.
Like a discus. That's impressive.
Yeah, I love it. I wish they would reprint this in high quality. It would look great.
Yeah.
So
as long as they didn't touch the coloring. That's one thing I can't stand, is when they go through and like try to give it modern gradient colors on these. It just messes up the awesome line work, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they do a good job, but most of the time it's almost like they do it too quick or somebody that doesn't know how to do it or something.
Well, and actually, I will say that, because like this reprint here was recolored, was retouched anyway, and they did a really good job of not overdoing the gradients. And when they have them, they're mostly cell shaded, so it actually preserves a lot of the line quality by not over pressing that. So I will say I think this one is a particularly good job of that. Speaking of Superman projects, and hey, if you really want to check out some other superhero comics, you can read my superhero comedy, Force of Good and Evil, and it's free, so that's fun. And you don't have to feel guilty about not giving us money, but if you do, you can support the show and my company by backing us on Patreon for whatever you feel like, because I'm just begging here.
If you want to see all the background music that we didn't put on the show tonight.
Well, that's true. We didn't. I could have put that on for this pitch portion and done a little like slow jam talk out. So, but we'll have to see how that goes. Anyway, guys, we're going to call it for tonight. We are at 2 hours and 8 minutes of a 1 hour show. And I want to thank you guys on the panel for sticking it out with us, despite having to fight off the internet 1-2 punch. Take that, Minnesota. And we are gonna, I'm doxing people all over the place. Good night. And
Good night, everybody.
Perfect.